can't see them, but I have this solution. So if I'll just come down here when I play the videos and hold it up so you can see from the iPad. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, this is my web page. I'm just going to scroll through and present from my website. Can you hear me? What's the form of our engagement with real and digital space, with complex visual worlds and realities? I'll talk about the techniques that we, all of us, use to interpret and understand spatial environments. I hope that by the end of this talk you have an answer that's useful to you. What is the form of engagement? The first thing to recognize is that our engagement with reality has a particular form. This is my topic. It applies alike to digital models, BIMs, digital twins, omniverses, NeRFs, point clouds, and what have you, etc. And definitely it applies in the real world too, walking around in everyday life. I note at the beginning that it applies no matter your philosophy of modeling. In the case that you set out to model to perfection and totality, your philosophy being the model perfected and complete, total modeling. And it applies in the case that you set out to model enough to satisfy some purpose, the model good enough philosophy. During design, a model good enough to declare your design adequate. During construction, good enough to communicate what to build and to some extent how. During operations and maintenance, good enough to assist with operations and maintenance. So whether your philosophy is perfected total modeling or good enough modeling, our visual cognitive form of engagement with models, worlds, places, realities, environments is the same. Okay, so let's go. There's a lot to cover. Do you see this? This is an attention-focusing rig in a garden. I know it's a cat, but it moves like a camera rig, focusing its attention with intensity. I think it's fair enough to call a cat an attention-focusing rig in a garden. Picture yourself as the cat. Be the cat. What draws your attention? What prompts your engagement? The patch of tall grass you like lying in? Some motion, some bug flying by, some field mouse to chase and pat around. This focus, this attention drawn, is a major part of our form of engagement with space and reality, for us and for cats too. I made a short video. It's about 90 seconds. It's about people in another kind of garden. While you look at it, think about how we engage with a place. I tried to capture that in this video. I try to show something about the form of engagement with a place. See if you can see it. Maybe it works. So I'll hit play here, and then I'm going to step down here and play it on the iPad. Play. Full screen. So, where was I? Like the cat in a garden, our attention is drawn to certain moments that attract our interest. We do not commit to memory. We don't commit to memory and record all the visual information that pours into our eyeballs. We ignore most of it. Cognitive effort is put instead into selecting somehow. Nobody knows how this selection happens, but it happens. Selecting what to focus on and storing memories of these acts of focus. We can classify two kinds of attentive focus employed as we walk around rocky cliffs and swim in an octopus's garden. I gotta escape this on here. I forgot about the other. Here we go. One, we view the wider expanse of the place for an overall impression, to get the lay of the land, so to speak, an expansive way of looking for overview. And two, we narrow our focus to certain moments that draw our attention where we're motivated to focus, for whatever reasons, to look more closely for sharper impressions. These hold in the memory together with the wider overview. Why are we drawn to certain moments and not others? Who can say? Reasons vary. Motivations for attention vary, and many are less than straightforward. Some are easy to figure out, though. At the seacoast, rambling around the edge of high cliffs, attention had better be paid. A wise investment of cognitive effort indeed. Settling down at some safe spot down by the water, the prompts for attention might be less direct. Whatever draws our attention, for whatever reasons, here's the point. The wider expanse, our overview impression, and the more sharply defined moments that draw our attention through narrower, hard to say, focus, all of these hold in the memory and get stitched together in some kind of mental framework. That framework is some kind of interplay dynamic, some kind of cognitive process where we consider each attentive moment not in isolation, not in the abstract, but with reference to all the other moments, wide and narrow, expansive and narrowly focused. There is some kind of ping-ponging back and forth in consideration between all of these. To put it another way, there's a contextualization of each narrowly focused moment within the wider expansive overview, and at the same time, there's a progressively intensifying clarification and filling out of the wider overview through the lens of each moment of narrowed attentive focus. This is the form of our engagement, the wide, the narrow, and the interplay. And here's a picture of it, which I'll show you. You can see the wide overview image at the bottom, the large image, and the narrower moments of focused attention at the top, and the interplay between these, which is a cognitive process, out of which we build up understanding of a place, a thing. Am I describing the basic observable dynamic of thought itself? Maybe. An argument could be made for that. Thinking is interplay, and through thinking we develop understanding, which of course becomes even more useful as things become complex. How do we understand complex things like rock cliffs, octopus gardens, BIMs, digital twins, NERFs, metaverses, etc.? Do we try to grasp or mentally eat them up whole? Whole oceans of information, whole environments at once? Do we gulp down the whole chicken? No, we do not gulp down the whole chicken. We develop understanding through a dynamic interplay that builds a kind of energy state. The focused moment clarifies and fills out the wider overview, while at the same time, in reverse, the wider overview imbues the narrower moment with meaning. Understanding starts out superficial, but increases as we engage, and continues to increase as we continue to engage in this interplay. As cognitive energy is put into the interplay, the energy in the system gets bumped up to a higher electron shell level, metaphorically. The more you exercise the interplay, the better the understanding for some purpose. So what's that got to do with software and technical domains like design and construction, architecture and engineering? Well, it's obvious, and I'm going to show it. What's the purpose of digital media in technical fields? 1, assist the development of understanding. To do that, digital media has to facilitate and amplify the interplay, bump up the cognitive energy to a higher shell level. Take a look. So I got to get rid of these YouTube ads and play this. So it's playing there. Now I'll play it. All right, so I'm going to back up the video. Here we go. So this is a modeled environment. That is a bounding cube, the green box. So I'm going to narrow my attention to the green box, and the box has a built-in viewing path, the red curve. So there's camera control that's built into the box. The camera moves along that curve. And there's a UI here where I can just pan back and forth along that viewing curve, and now I'm focusing my attention there in context. On that UI, I can drop some pegs. These are filter pegs. So the way the whole environment is being filtered can change at different places on the timeline. Okay. You can also do style pegs. You could do motion pegs. Any other kind of pegs you want to put in there. Then this happens. At the center, it transforms the projection from perspective to parallel. Now, what's that look like? Something you've seen before. If you're developing this, you have the option. I need to back up just a second. If you're developing these kind of rigs in your modeling app, you can put an I/O, input-output, to external graphics apps. So that if you want extra graphics added to these rigs, notes and clarifying shapes and stuff, you can do that either right in the rig, or you can do it with a link to an external app like Procreate or some CAD thing or whatever you want, some Illustrator. Now the video goes on. There's a couple more examples. This one, the first one was small in a corner. This one is an elevation, covers the whole building, front, and you'll see. Again, I go onto this viewing path of this, I'm calling these rigs, TGN rigs. You're rigging the model for insight. You can set the display, style, and other pegs anywhere you wish on the rigs, and you can share these rigs to people using other modeler apps. So if you're building in Esri, or if you're building in Blender BIM, and you want to go up to Omniverse, you can share that. You can say, hey, I got 400 rigs in this project. My structural consultant, they got 300, 500. Let's see them all in the Omniverse. So that's going to be shown right here next. There's a share feature for any of these rigs. Hang on a second. It's coming right just a second. Share your rigs with other modeling apps. So whatever mechanism you want to use as you develop this, you hit share, you've selected a set of rigs, you send it to a guy, someone else in another app. In the receiving app, the user receives the rigs, and the rigs call down the appropriate models, because they only make sense in the context of the right models. So there's a cloud gateway that brings you down the right models. Okay. That's the end of the video. Thank you, Richard. Okay. So that makes sense, right? Again, this picture, as I went over the metaphor of the wide and the narrow and the interplay between them. And so similarly, in this diagram here, guess what? Wide modeled environment, narrow is close articulations at the top. Understand any complex visual spatial environment. Those are drawings at the top. Drawings are narrowed articulation. They're articulations of narrowed, attentive focus within the context of a wider spatial whole. Okay. Even so, for 20 years now, and you still hear people saying, get rid of drawings, the model is everything. Yeah, sure. So now you have no attentive focus and no interplay and no engine of interpretive understanding. And no confidence either. Confidence, trying to scroll on my other device, I'm sorry for the pause. Confidence is another part of understanding. It deals with the affirmative capacity to assuage, the French word, certain kinds, specific kinds of doubt or irritation, like, is the model good enough? Is it done yet? You know, if you're the one developing, if you're the team that's building these models, right? Or do I understand the model adequately beyond superficially for some purpose? Is the interplay well engaged? Is everything that should be here at some attentive focus rig, is everything that should be here? And to take it one step further, can I affirm to others that all that should be here is here, that nothing that matters is missing here, right? Anyway, as a maker of digital models and construction drawings, I'm referring to myself in former times when I was a lot younger. These were some of the things that occupied my brain pretty much continuously. Here are some of the projects I worked on. Take a browse through my old memories if you like. I won't do it now for time, but that's a link to some of my old projects. Around 2007 or so, I noticed something that I was doing this all the time, as everyone does. I realized while building the models that to answer the most basic questions about them that I myself had, it was always necessary to look at them through the lens of moments of narrowed attentive focus, otherwise known as drawings, which since around 1998, I had been automating from digital models. The drawing graphics fell out of the models. That was the mantra back then, but the mantra missed the point. The important thing was this: those drawings helped me understand the model. Without the drawings, the model, already in the early first days of a project's modeling, the model surpasses and overwhelms our cognitive grasp. As it slips from our grasp, then we rely on technique to handle it, to make sense of it. We rely on a form of engagement with it. Without the drawings, without the narrowed attentive focus, the model eventually becomes unintelligible or only superficially intelligible, just an ocean of information to swim forever in and get nowhere. The opposite was and is also true. I don't understand the drawings either without the model. Excuse me, standing on their own, drawings are functionally meaningless. They might serve as abstract art, a bunch of lines in a museum framed, but they become meaningful only when I see them in my mind's eye, where they really are in the model. The model, in fact, is the only thing that imbues them with meaning. So this is interdependency. It's a drawing model fusion that we're engaged with, a cognitive interplay, and that's no surprise because that's how our minds work. It's the nature of thinking and understanding. What was a surprise was the software, specifically software's lack of assistance with this essential cognitive interplay. Although I was an enthusiastic user of supposedly advanced software and methods, the software left us performing this interplay as a mental exercise only, wholly unassisted by digital media. That just seemed stupid to me because the exercise in technical fields is highly complex and digital modeled environments have precisely the capacity to assist with this if anyone would simply have thought to do it. Einstein and Infeld wrote in 1938, "The formulation of a problem is often more essential than its solution, which may be merely a matter of mathematical or experimental skill. To raise new questions, new possibilities, to regard old problems from a new angle requires creative imagination and marks real advances in science. The formulation of a problem is often more essential than its solution." So I wrote to the software company that I was a fan of and user, customer. Fanboy probably would accurately label me. I wrote about this fusion idea that the drawings, embellished with clarifying notes and graphics as they are, ought to be visible where they really are at their true orientation within the models, and that their software should automate this because it would help us understand the models and the drawings better. And at the same time, they ended up hiring me to lead a team to design and implement what I proposed, automated drawing model fusion, a boon to interplay, a cognitive assist to understanding, and I lost my place and the opening of an important door to the future of digital media and our form of engagement with it. Our team released that innovation in commercial software from Bentley Systems in May of 2012, 10 years ago. I have some videos here from back then, 2011, on my YouTube channel. If you want to see, there's the link. Please scroll through. They're neat, I guess. No, I'm fond of them. But since then, 10 years gone, 9 different software companies that I know of automate this fusion. So we did it first in 2012. Graphisoft, SolidWorks in 2015, Daleks, Revisdo, which I love, Morpholio and Shaper acting together, actually, using the two apps together, Tekla in 2020, and Autodesk Docs this year. So we went through this door, and what we see behind us is 10 years worth of development that can be called Generation 1, version 1.0 of expressions of narrowed attentive focus within digital modeled environments. Well, that's the past. What's ahead? I've been down this road before, and I intend to do it again. Believe me, I intend to do it again. And this time better. The TGN rigs that I propose solve this problem, the need, the requirement in all modeled environments for a standardizable form of engagement with models that builds more thorough understanding faster, that draws focused attention to things that need to be understood, and provides both clarity and control over communication about very complex situations in very complex models. This time, the fusion is designed to be more effective, more communicative, more expressive, more engaging, more interactive, more compelling, likely addictive, easier to use, and far more useful. A much stronger assist to thought and understanding of very complex situations in very complex models. And this time around, in 2.0, TGN as I call it, the industry can avoid siloing attention-focusing rigs within app, platform, and format silos. Attention-focusing rigs can be developed with a community-managed, standardized core feature set that ensures shareability across the app, format, and platform boundaries with adequate graphical fidelity. I'm going to have to skip for time But please look at my website. I got a video here from somebody put the best shots of all time camera rigs in the history of film. They got the 6 best of over 100 years. Highly recommend this video. Because TGN is a triple fusion: modeled worlds, attention-focusing rigs, and cinematic camera rigging. Okay, one last thing. If you're a software developer and you want to read a functional specification of this in detail, I've written it. It's free. Do whatever you want with it. Just take it. There are the links. You can download it. Here's some screenshots. I got it in different formats. I intend to reformat this on GitHub for open access editing. Here's a screenshot of the table of contents. Here's a sample page. I've got a YouTube playlist, a bunch more videos showing this mock-up and me blabbing about it, talking about certain different technical aspects of it. And then there's this diagram here. So this is an attention-focusing rig. I'm going to step away again and show this to the audience. If you, please just walk around and show that. If you are a software developer, the attention-focusing, AFR, attention-focusing rig possibilities are very diverse. Every industrial, creative, technical domain and every discipline has its own unique characteristics and needs, and each has tremendous diversity in existing applications and platforms with a wide range of different graphical capabilities. That being the case, there is no single correct, definitive AFR specification possible. Not one that encompasses either what's needed from every domain, let alone what's possible springing out of each domain. And yet, it is conceivable that each developer implementing the AFR concept on each software platform may at once be A, completely free to innovate all possible AFR features that may be discovered by each developer in evaluating their user requirements. In the diagram here, I hint at these. They're colored blue, and I sample just some of those possibilities and I describe them in the diagram. And yet, B, developers may conform to and take advantage of a set of community-managed, open-source standard features at the core of AFR. The standardized core features I refer to as TGN. TGN is colored orange in the diagram. So, last thing, I have a zoom in on that. Check this out. Now, at the core, we've got, look at the bottom at like 6 o'clock, TGN rig volume. 8 o'clock, we got TGN rig viewing path. Then up at 10 o'clock, we got style pegs. At 1 o'clock, we got filter pegs. At 2 o'clock, we got extra graphics, adding extra graphics into each rig, right? And down at 5 o'clock, we got TGN rig admin. So real quick, I just want to mention a couple things about the ones on the right side of this. The filter pegs. In Esri, or in Revisto, you have extremely powerful search and filtering capabilities that are tuned specifically to your platforms and are bleeding edge of the capabilities for search, parameter search and compound searches. And there's no way to write a specification that says, I'm going to specify the method of search, because every app does it differently. But no matter how sophisticated your search is, 1 minute, every search has a product. There's a method and the product. The product of every search or filter is a list of GUIDs. So the list of GUIDs that are the result, the product of the filter, need to sink down into the orange level, into the TGN rig. The same is true for extra graphics. No matter what you want to do with extra graphics authoring, whether you have awesome tools for adding extra graphics that are just mind-blowing in your own app and you want those stored in the rigs, or you're going to do an I/O to Procreate or some iPad app or some CAD thing, whatever, they need to sink down into the core as SVG so that they're portable. So do whatever you want, but the rig will transform them to SVG for portability. And the same is true on the admin side. Every rig has a GUID. Every rig has we got to store the coordinate system it was created in. We need to know who's the author, who's claiming it, who owns it, and we got to make calls to either some local server or up in the cloud to know where the models are held, so that when we share the rig with somebody else, they get the right models. The models rain down from the cloud. Well, that requires a modeling gateway. So notice 30 seconds. I just wanted to mention, because I saw some very smart people yesterday and today talking about conic Atom IFC. So Atom IFC, and there's a link there to their page on GitHub, looks to me like an important facilitator of a reliable models gateway, which is exactly what developers would be looking for in implementing the TGN rig ID admin features. So, things you can do. You can contact me with questions. If you want TGN in your apps, whether you're a user or a developer, there are 4 things you can do. Contact me with questions. Or 2, do you believe AFR TGN is no good? Fine. Contact me and tell me that too. 3, if you're interested in setting up a community-managed open-source TGN core developer community, let's discuss it. 4, if you'd like my help designing AFR TGN features in your app or platform, contact me. Please do. And thank you.